Welcome back to Final Fantasy Ultra Champion Edition. When we last left off, we had just finished fighting Kraken and clearing the Sea Shrine. Now we are on to Lefein, and we're going to just explore the town of Lefein to see what changes have been made, and see if we can still pick up the chime from the little dude hanging out down in the bottom right corner, or to the bottom right of this main entrance, the cool white wizard sprite, shared sprite with the white wizard of the NES version. We did still have to park our airship a ways to the northwest of Lefein, but I left that part out because it's pretty much the same. The tiles have been changed just a little bit. The route is a tiny bit longer, I think, but nothing major there. So we're just going to talk to all of these guys so I can kind of chronicle what they say. Indeed, we do get the chime from the one of the only Lefeinish people to stand still there. Let's check out our magic shop. Just going to take a peek. Zonk, my sage, does not yet have any level 8 spell charges. Flare, Meteo, X-Zone, and Temper 3. Those are Flare and Meteo would be high damage spells, and Temper 3 is a buff spell. And then, of course, X-Zone is, I think, probably the new version of XXXX, and it is an instant death spell for all. I don't know if it is a threshold spell. I do not know if they have threshold spells in this hack. It's an instant death spell that targets all enemies. But I do not believe, at least from the README description, maybe I will be corrected in the comment sections below, I don't believe I saw any threshold spells. And what I mean by a threshold spell is that it only lands if the target is under a certain hit point level. I don't mean threshold like the old Magic the Gathering mechanic from, maybe was it Odyssey, where if you had more than a certain number of cards in your graveyard, cards did different things. Never mind. Enough Magic the Gathering talk here in a Final Fantasy Ultra Champion Edition. And here's another reference to bears. We missed a bear reference in the video of the Southwest Castle. We missed a bear reference there. By the way, we do have a reference to robots, another reference to robots. We've seen the Cope, or Cope, up there in Onrak, saw something shiny. And then there's another reference to robots. I used the warp spell right there to kind of just pop over here to the Mirage Tower. That is not something you can do in the game, but I just skipped the long walk back from Lefein to the airship and the long walk on the desert to the Mirage Tower. The difference here is you no longer have a close parking spot to the east of the Mirage Tower. Normally in the NES version, there is a landing tile shortly to the east. Now you have to head straight south of the Mirage Tower to find a landing tile, and so it's a little bit longer walk through the desert. But the first floor of the Mirage Tower is laid out pretty close to what it is in the NES version. You have a kind of like a octagon or hexagon-shaped floor here, with the stairs going out to the exit and the stairs going up to the next floor, very close to each other as the crow flies, but with a wall separating each other. So you do have to kind of navigate the floor a little bit to get to the stairs heading up. And I've had battles with the Rogue and Sand Hag combo again. So you can see how you can either walk around the periphery of the room or you can go through the kind of a maze there. Now this next floor is set up as a maze. Again, it's another economical way to use that, and it's definitely a strong reference back to the vanilla version of the layout of this room. So I have to get to that treasure room in the middle, but I'm going to have to take a circuitous route to get to that treasure room in the middle. And there are some very notable treasures in there in the NES version, and we will see what's in there in this version. These Dark Knights are a reference to the bad man / evil man enemies in the NES version, or the vanilla version of this game. Bad men and evil men pop up with that kind of sprite. And they can do some, especially I think it's the evil men you run into later, maybe in the Temple of Fiends Revisited, you start running into evil men. Bad Man, what a great name, Bad Man and Evil Man. They can start doing some nasty things. So here I'm going to attempt to use my Wake Ring, but I will not get a chance to use it because he got stunned. You also may have seen in Zonk's inventory the Ice Staff. The Ice Staff, that is something that I picked up in the downtime between. I poked my head into one of the game's bonus dungeons and just picked up a very, very useful item in there and then exited out. There, it's guarded by some tough frost dragon and an ice elemental and some frost wolves. But I just poked my head in there, grabbed that staff, and got out because I thought it might come in handy here. Now I can't work my way down to the steps that way. There's the stairs going up to the 3rd level of the Mirage Tower. And cockatrices, we've seen them before. They have of course, the stone touch ability, which is irritating, but nothing we can't handle. Soft potions are pretty cheap in this game comparatively. Soft potions cost 800 in the NES version. They cost 100 in this version, but then of course healing potions cost 60 in the NES version and 250 in this version. They're much stronger in this version. They heal 100 hit points as opposed to, I think they heal just like 40 to 60. It's different in battle and in using them outside of battle, by the way. Anyway, here is our treasure room. The treasure chests are laid out more or less like they are in the NES version. I think that's exactly how they're laid out, in that shape. In the NES version, you can pick up, I think the most notable treasure in this room is the dragon armor. The dragon armor gives you resistance to fire, ice, and lightning. It is I think it's a fighter knight armor only. But it's very handy to have that resistance. There are no elemental resistant armors in this game, I've been told. So all of the resistances that we're going to get are going to have to come from our white mage. And here's the Basilisk type enemy. A couple of rounds of not running. Not doing much for us, so we're going to have to go on the offensive here. There's the Ice Staff, casting Ice. And I go ahead and just use the Basilisk's stoning ability right back at him. These Basilisks do have the stone touch attack also, so we have to be careful about that. But the soft spell, of course, functions as a petrification spell in battle, and that's where I'm using it almost exclusively. In fact, I've even stopped casting the shell spell in battle because it's on the same spell level as the soft spell. So it's actually better for me to save those spell levels and then go ahead and cast Wall, which is on the same level as Exit, as I'm going to do right here. So rather than waste another casting at level 5, I'm going up to level 6 to cast the Wall spell. Normally I would just want to cast a shell spell here to defend against the Tricker's Bolt, because they start with Bolt, then they go up to Bolt 2 and then Bolt 3. So pretty nasty overall, especially when there's 4 of them and they can really pile on the damage if they kind of stack using their spells. And there's Esper, victim to the Stone Touch from the Basilisk. So 2 Basilisks and 4 Trickers is no picnic. And these Trickers apparently are the ones who took Underhill. The caravan master who was captured or killed. I'm not sure what happened to poor Underhill, but there's a reference to Underhill being attacked by these Trickers. So unfortunate for caravan master Underhill. Kind of in a desperation attack here, I'm using the Quake spell, which is an all-targeting Earth Elemental damage attack. And there's Soft taking care of that last Basilisk, so lucky to get out of that battle in one piece. We're going to have to get healed up here. I'm going to use a Soft potion rather than casting Soft, because it's much better to spend a 100 gold potion than to waste a casting of Soft in the middle of a dungeon. So we're just rearranging and healing up here. So you can see that these treasures are not going to be a picnic to collect, which means I'm hoping that they're worth it. And so far in this game, treasure chests have been worth it. By and large, treasure chests have... there have not been too many chests with junk in them. There's a lot of chests with junk in them in the NES version. There's the Rune Robe, and the Opal Plate. So that's a step up for 2 different characters. The Opal Plate will go to my Viking, and the Rune Robe will go down to my Sage, who equips robes. One more move that I'll actually make later. I did not make it here at this point, but I need to move the Mithril Plate down to my Cleric. That'll be a move that happens later. I did not remember to make that move at this point. But it's nice to have the Opal stuff, the Opal step up. Now, the Opal equipment protects you against lightning in the NES version of the game, and you pick up the Opal stuff in the Sea Shrine. You pick up the Opal helmet, and there's an Opal bracelet, and maybe also an Opal shield. Now, I'm presuming that there's another protected battle in the little corner there, in that little nook and cranny. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to see if that chest is also protected on the backside by a nasty battle with Basilisks and Trickers. I don't know if it is. And actually, off the top of my head, I can't remember if those are spiked squares in the NES version of the game. So here's a battle, and it is indeed a Basilisk Tricker combo. So that chest must be protected on all sides, or at least on 2 sides, by this Basilisk Tricker combo. And I'm hoping that there is something equally good in this chest if they're going to have us fight a very, very dangerous battle to get there. Thankfully, one of the Trickers took his turn to escape, so their morale must not be incredibly high. So that would mean that if their morale already is kind of low, probably one casting of Exit would take care of all of them in a round or 2. Now, of course, you would not get the gold or experience from the escaping Trickers. And so I would prefer to pick up that extra experience in gold, because even at level 25, I've got a long way to go before I'm going to be ready to finish this game. I do plan to do all of the bonus content of this in this series, so I will be recording all of that. And so hopefully when I do the final dungeon crawl, which sounds like it's going to be quite an experience, sounds like it's a pretty varied dungeon with a lot of cool things in it. So there's a step up, Opal Shield, and I get a step up to the Mithril Shield. I still didn't notice that I was still sporting the silver plate, but I'll take care of that later. So now we've cleared out the second level, and it's time to head up to level 3 of the Mirage Tower. Here's 9 Dark Knights with a surprise attack. They've gotten a few surprise attacks, so they must have a similarly high surprise attack rate to like the rogue type enemies, the rogue sandhag combo. Although I've started to, as I've leveled up a little bit since I first ran into them, that's been a little bit less as my stats have gone a little bit higher. I believe it's your luck stat that calculates the first strikes. It's been a little while since I've checked that particular calculation on the algorithms guide, because in the NES version all that stuff is pretty much broken. So it's not really worth learning how it's supposed to go, because it doesn't really work. That's what makes the Thief such a terrible class to use in the NES version, because the things they're supposed to be good at are broken. Here's a reference to the cube. So that robot escaped with the cube. He escaped to the southwest, so we don't know where he ended up going with his cube. Normally you pick up the cube from the robot in the waterfall cave, which is also the location of your first ribbon, so you can pick that up pretty early if you can make it through the waterfall cave, a short little dungeon there. And here's the Blue D. Now, the Blue D is definitely a boss in a mini boss, I should say, in the NES version. That square is spiked with blue dragons. So I'm going to be sandbagging up against what is likely going to be some lightning elemental attacks, and I'm guessing by the ability name Blitz that it is a lightning attack. since that is the German word for lightning. So I'm guessing Blitz is lightning elemental, and it makes sense for our blue D to be using lightning elemental attack. So Wall again, saving those castings of Soft when Shell would have worked just fine to defend me from future castings of the Blitz ability. So now I'm trying to decide what I can do with my Cleric. The Cleric sometimes has really useful spells, and sometimes not so much. So I'm going to be casting Pearl, which is the equivalent to Holy. Temper 2 and Haste on my Viking will really help. 7 hits for 920. That's a huge chunk of damage. Heal 3 will bring us back from the casting of Blitz. And there's Pearl. Mediocre damage for a level 8 spell, at least on this enemy. But it's a nice chunk of offense there in the level 8 slot. It certainly will help against large groups of enemies as I'm leveling up, so it will see some good use as we go on. That area of effect damage is handy. Now a note, we're going to be finishing up the Mirage Tower video here, and then I'm going to go back and recover before we actually take on the floating castle. So no worries on all of those high-level spell charges I used. I will go back and restore between videos. If you liked this video, please do feel free to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you have not already, and also make sure to leave me a comment. I always love to hear what you think. Get in touch with me on Twitter, where I am active_ATE. We will see you next time for more exciting action on Final Fantasy Ultra Champion Edition in the Floating Castle.